if you introduce anything into this equation that is not made directly by the manufacturer of the automobile, you're now risking how that load path or that energy travel is going to travel. So I'm talking about specifically aftermarket parts or something not made by the manufacturer for this vehicle. When your insurance company looks at the damage, they're going to be doing what I mentioned earlier. They're going to look at the damage. Where is, I can see what's broken and bent and so on and so forth. They're not, and that's all they're going to pay for.
Right.
Because they're not looking past the damage. The vehicles just aren't made the way they used to be made, and we can't try to fix them and diagnose them the way we used to do it.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the airing of grievances. We're super glad that you're here. If you are a first timer here to the channel, do us a favor if you will, please. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, that way you get notified every time we come on and present another one of these episodes. And no matter what, if you wouldn't mind, give us a thumbs up, a like for the video. That's the number one way to help us grow the channel and get the word out to more and more consumers who need the information that we're going to be talking about, not just this week, but every week.
We
right?
try.
Yeah. And so we're grateful for you. Let's get right into it, Rob. And I got to clear the air right off the top of the bat because the thumbnail says that's a load of, and the answer is energy.
Energy.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about energy today. And don't tune out, guys.
It's not a science class.
We're not talking about boogity spiritual stuff either, okay? So stick with us as we talk about energy and what it matters to you. And so let's get into it.
Okay. Well, the reason I'm bringing the subject up is because cars are built differently today than they have been in the past, and they're going to be built differently tomorrow than they are today.
Well, let's just start with we are both of the age when repairing a car, when our dads were working on them, we could actually climb into the engine cavity, right?
Yeah.
And get things done. That's not happening.
It's long gone.
Cars are computers today, and more than that, everything seems to work hand in hand with each other.
Intentionally.
Right?
Intentionally.
And that kind of, that absolutely has everything to do with what we're going to talk about today and how energy travels.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so let's just talk about energy and the way it travels and why that's important to the manufacturer of vehicles today.
Okay.
Because when you're in an accident, which is a very unfortunate place to be, you want the vehicle to protect you and the rest of your occupants.
Of course, absolutely.
And even after a vehicle is repaired, you want it to do the same thing. You want it to protect you and the occupants.
Sometimes accidents happen twice to the same car. Right?
Yes.
And that's an
That's an understatement.
Yeah. Thank you to all of our repeat customers.
Yeah. So we have something that we're going to talk about, and I'm using a Lexus, a very popular Lexus RX as an example.
Okay.
And we're going to be talking about what they call collision force absorption direction.
Okay.
So, and we're going to be putting these up on the screen for you, but
absolutely.
I need to have them in front of me in order to talk about them.
Yeah.
Here we have the front of the vehicle, and the clear white arrow is showing the direction of the force.
Yes.
And then the little black arrows are showing how that energy is going to travel throughout the car.
Okay, just a quick thing. You said the direction of the force, that's the actual collision.
That's the collision.
That's the accident that takes place. Mm-hmm. And in this particular picture that we're showing, it's on the front bumper.
This is a front end hit.
Okay.
And you'll see, and all these pieces are very, very important to having the energy go the direction the manufacturer wants it to.
Right.
Because they want the car to fold in such a way that it protects you.
It's weird to think of, for the average consumer, to think in terms of wanting the car to fold at all.
Yeah.
But you do, because it's the release of energy.
Yeah, so if you look at the old cars, let's say in the 60s,
Yeah.
they were not designed to fold. They were designed to look glitzy and be big.
Yes. Some of us have those cars still.
And if you hit a tree or you hit something solid,
Yeah.
the energy would come through the vehicle and you would absorb the energy.
Right.
Instead of the vehicle, there's very little damage to the vehicle because big bumpers and chrome and heavy metals, and it's just made to look great.
Yes.
But as far as responding in an accident, it responds in a way that the car doesn't get much damage, but your body takes the impact.
Sure.
The cars now are made so that they fold in certain places to take that, and every fold that it does takes the energy off of you
Okay.
and
All
your
right.
passengers.
Gotcha.
It also can determine when airbags deploy and when they don't, and which ones.
Right, because many cars have multiple airbags. We think of
Multiple
our airbags. We think of simply the ones in the steering wheel or in the dash.
Mm-hmm.
But now we have side curtain airbags. We've got
Seat in the seats.
in the seats.
They're everywhere. Bolster down by your knees. There's many airbags, and they all, the computers tell it when it's time to deploy.
Yeah.
So like if you don't have somebody in your front passenger seat and you have a front accident, your driver airbag may deploy, but your passenger may not,
Right.
because it knows there's nobody sitting there.
Understood.
So there's seat weight sensors
Yes.
in the passenger seat that tell it not only to deploy, but at almost what rate to deploy, because if somebody weighs X amount is real small, they don't want the force as much as if it was a full-grown adult, big person. So these things are so highly technical anymore that this is an important topic to cover. And the vehicles just aren't made the way they used to be made, and we can't try to fix them and diagnose them the way we used to do it. We need to understand what the manufacturer had in mind in this type of an estimate and look past where the damage is. So you can see your bumper is crushed and your grille is bent and your hood's bent and the fender's bent. But that's just what you're seeing as a result after the energy stopped moving. That energy went past that, and you have to look past the damage to see if there's any other evidence of additional damage.
Which brings me to an observation, if you will, and that may be why when you bring your car, which is obviously damaged, to a body shop and they give you an estimate and your insurance company gives an estimate on those things, it may be why after you start pulling apart and digging in, your estimate goes up, and sometimes significantly. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't see certain things.
Until you get it all exposed.
Got it. All because of energy.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'll give you a quick example. I read in a Facebook post recently that a repair shop had a Subaru in there, and it got hit in the front, just like the pictures that we have here.
Right.
And the reinforcement bar, which is very important, took the energy. It bent the front of the frame rail, but was repairable. You could pull it out to where it needs to be and then replace it.
I see.
And so they disassembled the vehicle. They had the engine taken out because you have to take the engine out in order to access everything to replace the frame rail.
Sure.
And lo and behold, there was damage to the floor of the vehicle where the frame rail attaches to the floor.
That wasn't visible prior to
Probably not.
taking it apart? Okay.
Probably not. But now that you have the engine and everything out of the way, the dash was out of the car, because you need all the access and you don't want to start fires behind the dash and stuff.
No.
So he found that the floor was now damaged significantly. And it didn't appear that way from the damage that you were looking at in front.
Right.
But the point is you have to look past that damage to see if there's anything else that might be. And somebody that wasn't as thorough as this person might have just fix the front a little bit,
Right.
enough to get everything to fit. But the problem becomes if it gets in another accident, it's already been compromised. So it doesn't have the strength anymore to protect the passengers,
Yeah.
and would just fold on top of itself. So kudos to this shop for being so, thorough.
Yeah. Now, when you get to that point, what do you have to make a decision on the ability to repair the vehicle
At that point, that structure by the firewall and the floor where the rail attaches, there's no way to fix that properly. It was just so pushed in that the car became a total loss at that point.
I gotcha.
So, load path is and energy travel is a critical thing. The manufacturers, they've got it figured out from every angle as to if it's going to get hit here, this is where the energy is going to go.
Which is really kind of fascinating. And again, I'll throw another graphic up here for your consideration for these load path or energy travel routes. It's very fascinating, and it takes significant engineering to
Predict.
right realize that this is how these metals are intended to bend, fold, give, release the energy, and it's all designed for your safety.
Yeah, and those of your passengers.
Yeah,
And we carry around precious cargo.
the most precious.
So we don't want to skimp on something and put our passengers, at risk. I got a couple more things if I could.
Please, yeah.
So you'll see in the graphics that some of these panels are a different color, and that's because they're different metals that are used and are going to react differently. And so the most important point here is that if you introduce anything into this equation that is not made directly by the manufacturer of the automobile, you're now risking how that load path or that energy travel is going to travel. So I'm talking about specifically aftermarket parts or something not made by the manufacturer for this vehicle.
And this becomes the critical conversation because as we learned in a previous episode, and I'll put the link up here, the insurance company is always, well, not always, many insurance companies almost always write their estimates for the least expensive route of payment so that they keep the profits instead of paying out for the proper repair.
Right.
And if we put aftermarket parts on this, the very definition of aftermarket parts, if somebody tells you that aftermarket parts are exactly the same as OEM parts, I'm pretty sure, and again, you're the expert, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but the definition of aftermarket has to be different to a significant degree because otherwise you'd be copying or you'd be infringing upon
Their patents. Yeah.
Right? And so
They're reverse engineered is how they do it.
Right.
They take a factory part and replicate it.
yeah, we hear phrases like, kind, and quality, which is probably not like either when it comes right down to it because they don't have the same energy resistance or transference
Yes.
as the OEM parts. Am I getting it right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's important that, and when I say putting anything in the equation, that means not only aftermarket parts, but if they say we want a certain type of weld for a panel,
They being
the manufacturer.
manufacturer.
Yeah, and if you look up the procedures, they'll tell you exactly what they want, where they want it, and what size they want it.
Yeah.
They're very, very. But if you move a weld one way or another, or the weld's not big enough, or there's too many welds, that will interrupt or could interrupt the energy travel, and could affect airbag timing. It could affect so many different things. It needs to be put back exactly the way the manufacturer wants it.
You brought up a point, and I want to make it home, or drive it home, if you will, and that is when you look up the proper procedures. And that is something that I know, having worked here with Nylunds for many, many years, is a hallmark of this shop that we pull procedures for every single car, every single time.
Yes.
And the reason I emphasize it is because, friends, that is not always the practice in other shops. And we're not going to throw anybody under the bus.
Yeah, we're not looking to do that.
But the reality is,
But you need to do your homework.
there's a lot of shops out there that will say, I fix this kind of car all the time, every day. And in the same series of car, from year to year, this energy stuff that we're talking about can change.
Yes, it can.
Right?
Yes, it can.
As technology evolves, as
Metals,
all of it,
all this different stuff, and every one of these components. And I just looked at an estimate from an insurance company yesterday, and they had an aftermarket reinforcement bar, which is, I'm going to show you right here, so you
it's
put
the
it
thing
up on
behind
the graph.
the bumper cover,
Yep.
right?
It's behind the bumper cover,
Yeah.
and it's the first part of the energy travel.
Right.
So if you're going to take the first part and make it an aftermarket part, not made by the manufacturer to their specs, and the piece may look the same, but if you weigh it, it may weigh differently. It may not be made of the same exact material. It may not have the same welds if there's welds in it, or the same stamping.
That can change.
And that can change the energy travel.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
and
right.
then one more thing.
Yeah.
One more thing.
No, hit it.
When your insurance company looks at the damage, they're going to be doing what I mentioned earlier. They're going to look at the damage. Where is, I can see what's broken and bent and so on and so forth. They're not, and that's all they're going to pay for,
Right.
because they're not looking past the damage. And even though it could be evident by gaps between your fender and your door, or your two doors, I mean, the energy shows up. It goes in like an accordion and then comes back out. But does it come all the way back out? No, not all the time, depending on severity to things. So load path is a critical thing, and not putting anything in between what the manufacturer designed is just as critical as anything else.
Yeah. So if you learn anything here, it is that there are people who are concerned with your safety and the safety of those people who are traveling in your vehicle, and there are many of those kinds of people all around the country who operate decent and quality body shop or collision repair. There's also, buyer beware, folks who don't pay as much attention to such details, who are willing to put aftermarket parts on because they have a relationship with the insurer that basically says, the insurer says, this is all we're going to pay, and if you want us to keep sending you people, traffic.
They're not looking out for your best interest. They're
Right.
looking out for their financial interest, and the body shops in those cases are looking out for their financial interest in taking care of their insurance partner rather than taking care of you, the guest. We see it far too often, and it hurts me. It hurts my soul.
And I will say, and I can testify from the many years of experience of having worked with Nylunds here, that the reality is, at this shop, we put you first. That's the way it has to be. All right, well, there it is right there, guys. And I want to say thank you for tuning in and watching all the way to the end. If you made it this far, give us a thumbs up, would you please? We appreciate that. It helps the channel grow. And don't forget, if you're not a subscriber to the channel yet, go ahead and click the subscribe button and
Please.
the bell, the notification bell. We're super grateful for that. And we'll see you next Saturday morning on the airing of Grievances.